Hey, this is Mike from Intro Stars, and today we're super excited to bring you a brand new episode of the Super Connectors podcast with a very special VIP guest, Ed. Hey, Ed, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Mike. Good
What a
stuff.
pleasure. Yeah, so today we'd love to hear about your journey as a super connector. What does it mean for you to be a super connector?
So I think for me, like a super connector, it's obviously like the breadth of connections and breadth of engagement that you have, but to me, it's also the depth, right? So it's the depth of relationships that you have with individuals, and when you are making those connections, if you have that depth, then it's more likely that those connections are going to stick. So I think it's the breadth that you have, but also that depth of relationships, and that's what it means to me.
And what kind of introductions do you like to do? What defines a super connector versus someone just make a bunch of introductions?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what I'm doing with my webinars and with my recordings, there's a lot of depth to it because I take the time to have half an hour with that person, understanding exactly what they do and really delving into their particular topic of interest, their area where they have the greatest specialism. And then from that, in terms of the content I produce, it brings in the right connections and I can put the group of people together that has the right level of people hitting it off and the best connections from the result of it. So again, it comes back to that depth, I think.
So really understanding what people are about so you can make a more relevant introduction, right?
Exactly.
And really understanding where you can connect the dots. So I guess that's what it means.
Indeed.
So what is your journey to become a super connector? Like, were you always connecting people since you're a kid, or did it happen over time? Like, what was your journey to become an introducer and then a super connector after that?
So I do love the film Ferris Bueller's Day
I love
Off,
that
right?
movie.
Okay.
One of my favorites as well.
And I think one of the lines from that is how he connects people. He connects with the sportos or the dweebs, any of the different kind of groups. So I think from that kind of basis, when I was at school, I'd connect with different groups. I'd be with different kind of groups of kids and I'd bring people together. And I think that's a kind of really strong basis to be able to walk the line with different people and be able to connect in different times. Transfer that to professional life. And I think, I've been old enough in the game long enough that when you have engagements with people, you have connections and relationships. Yeah. If it's at a superficial level, if it's at a kind of shallow level, and it's just to do with kind of politics, then you don't have that connection. The bright kind of moment for me is where you can add value and you can bring two people together from that value, and it supersedes around the politics. So that's what it meant to me, and that was my kind of starting point.
And so what are you working on now where you need to connect people or be connected, and how do you connect people in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so I operate as a fractional head of marketing, so everything is what I do is across different clients. Yeah. Connecting clients with people that operate on different platforms or different kind of marketing activities is super important for me. So bringing together those connections of people is really important. Together with what I do in terms of my podcast and my webinars, it's creating those connections from those interactions. And so through last year, I ran a live webinar every fortnight for an entire year, which nearly killed me.
Yeah. What's your webinar called? What's it called?
It's called Great Shouts.
Great Shouts.
And the concept of Great Shouts is, maybe it's a very English term, but when somebody has a good idea, they say, great shout, good shout. It's like of the positive. And those kind of positive ideas and bringing people together. Now it's very much my kind of focus around having a kind of startup to scale up idea and focus. So I'll interview founders, I'll interview other agencies to see that kind of tipping point where people and businesses go from a startup stage to a scale up stage. We're running lots of different recordings, which is bringing people together, especially in the agency world and the founder world. So yeah.
So you connect like founders to agencies, you connect like, what kind of introductions do you make typically?
I think the agency and the founder is really important. Throughout last year, it was all very much kind of B2B marketing in terms of particular channels or particular topics or particular pain points. And in doing that and getting into the weeds of that topic, you can understand where people fit together and when there's a unique connection in that way. Yeah. So naturally, there's a result of that. And I'm sure we all live and breathe in LinkedIn. Yeah. And off the back of that, in terms of people's skill sets, connecting people in that way and setting people up just generates opportunities, and it sets me up nicely in terms of fractional head of marketing to then continue to work with those companies. I've also got kind of background working in VC a number of years ago, so there's also a good connection in London as well, and bringing people together off the back of that within the kind of tech and VC ecosystem.
And so how do you value your connections? What is your approach to networking and connecting people today?
I was kind of thinking about that. I mean, it's difficult to know the value of a connection. In a similar way, it's very difficult to know the value in terms of marketing attribution, right? You know you're giving positive connections, or you know you're doing kind of good marketing activity. You don't know quite where it's coming from. It's very difficult to track it.
Yeah.
I often kind of refer to it, it's like kind of ripples in a pool, right? You keep putting those ripples out, and eventually they reverberate and come back to you. You just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think somebody said to me, I'd rather, ride the karma train than, have a fee or something back from it. So I think there's a fine line in terms of going too early with relationships, and that kind of value, the cost of things. But then there's also a term of saying, well, you need to actually have some of the value and worth from those introductions that you make. So I think that's the case that you can kind of see it. But I often do, in the marketing world, you call it self-attributed. So you're asking the question, how did you hear about me, or how did it come back? But often it's taken so many different paths, it's quite difficult to track.
Yeah. And so how do you track introductions? Do you have a system to track introductions? And then also, how do you monetize it? Like, it's great to help other people, it's great to bring people together, but at some point you need to monetize. So how do you walk that fine line between, helping people and monetizing and building long-term trusts? Yeah. And also, how do you track it all?
Yeah. So I think naturally, with my direct marketing, background, I'll naturally look at kind of, UTMs or, how people have come to my website and kind of tracking in that way, if it's come from, different companies or kind of introductions. In terms of, self-attributed, then it's just really getting into the grips and asking those difficult questions in terms of understanding, well, how did you hear about me? How did you, arrive or ask for my services, and kind of a view of that. But in terms of, tracking things directly, that's super difficult. And I think that's maybe where I say this, what you really helps in that way, to be able to understand and actually get a feedback from something where you can actually ask from it. I mean, in my world, because I'm matching clients, I'm matching agencies together, where the project is right, it's good to take a fee. But I think there's often a case of being clear and transparent when that's happening, rather than being kind of shady in the background.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of challenge.
Yeah, you always want to be transparent and clear and set the expectations right for everyone involved.
Yeah.
As long as everyone's a winner, it's a win-win-win, then everyone should be happy and compensate fairly, right?
Exactly.
So when you look at a new generation of platforms like IntroStars, which allows you to track every introduction you make and receive, and also guarantee you get paid as an introducer if a deal comes out of it. How does that change the game for your approach to connecting people, or for other people out there who are also super connectors?
Yeah, and I think it's a great concept and a great idea, because I think being in that transparent world where somebody has a need and a want in terms of supply and demand, and it's clear and transparent on a platform, then it's very clear to say, well, I'm going to get that, money back from it, or I'm going to get kind of the kudos back from it. But also, if I know that I've got leads and I don't know what to do with them, then I can then see, well, they're available. I can find the right place to go in terms of finding the right connections. I think where you guys, it'd be really interesting is where you start connecting to LinkedIn and having that engagement with LinkedIn, because often that's where a lot of my conversations come from, and I've seen your kind of flags and triggers and how you're expanding that on the product, so I think that's really interesting. But yeah, going back to the points that we said before, as long as it's clear and transparent and you're finding the right time to be able to make that introduction to get monetized, then I think you'll have great level of activity, both in supply and demand.
Cool. And so what kind of trends do you see in the world of networking, of connections, of referrals? Do you see any new trends, and how does that change your approach?
So it's really interesting to see the fragmentation of networks and networking in terms of, my world. There's maybe like a startup CFO group for SaaS, right? And that is a thing. It's a WhatsApp group, or it's a LinkedIn group, the Facebook group. So being in those very closely and tight-walled groups and getting into that and engaging is quite interesting. I think in terms of this automation tools that mean that it's so easy for people to set up and to communicate, but at a very shallow level. I think even obviously superpowered by AI, you can have a kind of increase in arms of that, which will mainly mean that people will forget it and move to more old school, again, depth of understanding in their relationships. And also an interesting trend I've seen recently is around a marketing group that I know and a friend who's out there in Cambridge is very much set up a networking group for marketers that don't network, right?
Yeah.
They're very much introverts. They don't like doing it.
The shy marketers.
Yeah. It's like a safe place to operate.
Yeah.
And I think there's an extreme end from like, I don't know, speed networking or, very, happy cards or linking in with people. And as a safe place where you don't do any of that, you leave any of the selling at the door and you engage in that way. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes in a kind of post-COVID world when there's more engagement face-to-face as well as hybrid and online.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a balance between being transactional and doing things online, but also bring that face-to-face trusting element, human to human. Everything's a balance, right? It shouldn't be like one way or the other. It should be a bit of both, really. That's the way I look at it. So what are you working on right now? Where can people follow you, follow your adventures, learn more about you, get in touch? Tell us more what's on your roadmap right now.
So I'm across 3 fintech companies at the moment, growing fintech businesses that are all kind of Series A. So looking to expand and grow those in 2025. My kind of focus in terms of Great Shouts is all about startups to scale ups, and I've got a whole load of really interesting founders that I'm looking to interview. Interview yourself,
of course.
And then finally, I'm all about LinkedIn. So in terms of fragmentation, I stick to certain platforms, and LinkedIn's where you can find me. So Ed Davidson Marketing, and look forward to chatting and meeting people.
Amazing. Is there any big thing happening this year, which is going to be a game changer for you? Any big conference you're going to attend? Any big new project you're going to launch? Any big thing on your roadmap?
I would love to do more physical networking, right? And I think you are the king of this. So it's going to be...
Absolutely,
I've kind of played around with going to, cooking events, right? Or, I think we went to a paddle event together.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I'd love to start up a tennis networking group in London tied to this kind of scene. Tennis is my bag, and that's what I want to do more of in 2025. So I'd love to start doing that and attending more physical events and getting to London. I'm a country bumpkin. I'm out towards Cambridge, so getting more into town.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to your new tennis networking group. Can't wait to join that, and then invite you to many more in-person events. Really, and the cooking one sounds great as well. Can't wait for that. And I hope to be a guest on your podcast at some point. That'd be great.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. I'd really appreciate your wisdom today. Great nuggets. Great to hear about your journey and how you're helping so many people, so many startups, connecting, again, making those connections to make the world a better place. So thanks again for being a guest, and I hope to see you very soon.
Good stuff. Enjoy being here. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.